Morning. Good morning. I am up and just got done doing Mitchell Talks show this morning about the budget, so I figured I should go ahead and do a video. I haven't done one in maybe a couple weeks about what's going on at the Capitol. So, hi, I'm Senator Julia Kirt. I represent Senate District 30 in Oklahoma City. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had quite a lot happening. This is the time of year when the bills are being negotiated, the final bills that are in conference. That means that the House and Senate haven't yet agreed on the language, and so there's a lot of bills that are being brought forward with final negotiated deals. That can be some unpleasant surprises, or they can be okay. We're always watching closely because those bills get released kind of at the last second. If you're interested in a specific bill that you think might still be coming forward, certainly let us know what you think about them. The big news this week was that a budget deal was announced on Thursday. The legislative leadership and the governor announced that budget. It's not actually been released to the public. My caucus did get a briefing from our appropriations chair on Thursday. He walked through the budget with us for about an hour, and I certainly appreciate that. But I really need to see the details to be able to know what to expect here. Apparently, they're still working on the bill, so we haven't seen the bill yet. But our budget this year is up from previous years. So last year, the projections in the middle of COVID were really harsh. They really weren't sure what was going to happen with our revenues. So we were very careful this year, I'll just say. So the estimates were low, which means we've been exceeding those estimates. And we cut from state agencies last year. So we're entering this year with a whole lot more money in hand. A lot of that is because of the federal relief packages that have kind of propped up our local economy. I read the other day that unemployment benefits actually are one of the highest, has big economic impact in terms of stimulus monies, more than $1 return for every dollar spent, because of the way that folks need those funds and use them right away. Anyway, those federal monies have helped us exceed expectations. There's more than $1 billion of one-time money. So those are monies that were left over from previous years or used from other areas that are in this budget this year. We also are expecting more federal money, and we don't yet know. The guidelines were released this week, but there's a lot of flexibility there. So I'm very concerned and curious how those funds are going to get used, and if the governor is going to use the same process as before. We did, find out that process maybe wasn't as thorough as we hoped. Now we have more time to plan. The federal relief package, the Rescue Act monies will be over the next 2 years. So it gives us more time to actually use those monies well. A lot of it's going straight to schools or straight to local communities, which is great. But I want to see that we use those funds well and that we don't try to supplant monies that we're already appropriating. So monies that the legislature already decides about. I hope that we're not going to assume those federal monies will make up that difference. One of the biggest concerns out of the budget talks and the budget agreement is that they did agree to tax cuts. And those tax cuts include 2% tax cut to corporations and a 0.25% cut to individual taxes. One of the reasons I'm really concerned about that is, number one, it's premature. We have just exited an unbelievable event that's impacted our economy, impacted our health. And we don't know what the ripple effects are going to be on our economy. We really don't have a good sense of where we're going in terms of finances coming in, revenue coming in. And I'm worried that we cut it at this point when we don't really know what to expect. The other is a 2% cut to corporate tax. Those funds, a lot of those monies go out of state shareholders, out of state business owners, because our local businesses, our sole proprietors and other locally owned businesses, those monies flow through their individual taxes and get paid. So this will not be a tax cut for locally owned businesses that pay their taxes, combined taxes. So I'm concerned that we're making it kind of unfair. I don't know why they've decided to make the corporate tax cuts bigger than individual tax cuts. In past, corporate tax cuts have not led to the economic development promised. There's not any evidence that shows us that we're going to have a boom in jobs or a boom in investment just because of tax cuts. And then the individual tax cuts, 0.25%, is very small to each individual. So someone making $40,000 might get an extra $100. But when you multiply that by the whole state, it's a lot. I was going to give you the quick numbers. So individual tax cuts is going to cost the state $170 million a year. And the corporate income tax is estimated to be $110 million a year. So you're talking about cutting $280 million in taxes out of the budget. Just 3 years ago, we were going through the very painful challenges of repeated revenue failures. And if you'll recall, the teacher walkout came out of not being able to invest in public education, and they had to raise taxes. And that was very difficult because we had to have 75% of the legislature agree to those tax increases. So only 50% plus one have to agree to cut taxes, but 75% have to agree to raise taxes. So it's a really bad imbalance. If we cut taxes, those taxes aren't coming back unless we enter a horrible crisis. And I would like to see some longer term planning in terms of revenue. It's not enough to really transform anyone's personal finances, but it is enough to really hurt the state's finances. And we just know that tax cuts do not stimulate the economy. It's been shown again and again. The other thing I'll just comment on the budget is I'm concerned that we're not making investments in prevention. We did invest. They went ahead and put the monies aside for Medicaid expansion as required. That certainly should have a great impact on our health and well-being as a state. I would have liked to see us try to turn a corner on some of our human services and other health. Mental health, they did get increases, but there was funds saved because of Medicaid expansion. There's about $29 million that's going to be saved due to people being covered by Medicaid that haven't been covered before. And the Department of Mental Health is only keeping about half that money to reinvest. Well, we've been one of the states across the country that has the lowest, one of the lowest per capita spending on mental health. It really doesn't cost that much to get people treatment if we invest it preventatively. What costs a lot is people going into inpatient treatment, crisis, or being incarcerated. So it's about $3,000 for outpatient treatment for a year. Whereas if somebody's incarcerated with severe mental health challenges, it can cost upwards of $30,000. I think we should be making that choice up front to really turn a corner in terms of providing mental health access and substance use access for folks who need it and want it. The other thing I just want to mention real quickly is about economic development. One of the things we've seen is that our unemployment is incredibly low already, and I'm really glad for that. But we also know that low-wage workers were the hardest hit by the pandemic. Low-wage workers have lost jobs at a higher rate, and they've not been able to rebuild. Many have lost hours. And the other big challenge is that people have left the workforce. One of the reasons the unemployment numbers are low is because of how many people are not looking for jobs now. And given the national information, at least, that's majority women. So those are women who've had to leave the workforce because childcare. I talked to many people where they didn't feel safe taking their child during the middle of COVID to a daycare. We had school in and out of in-person. That created all kinds of crises for families trying to make sure their kids are covered. And a lot of people have chosen not to work because they can't. How can you do that and safely keep your kids? So I think we have to look at who's left out of our economy and make sure we're investing in those folks. I would have liked to see more investment in our rehabilitation, retraining, helping individuals who are harder to employ, like our Department of Rehabilitation Services, making sure they have the funds they need to help people turn a corner. We have a waiting list for rehabilitation services. That is people who want to get jobs. We need to make sure we're giving them the resources they need to get back in and get trained. So those are some of my concerns. I look forward to seeing the budget. What's going to happen is we're seeing some of those joint committee on appropriations bills. So some surprise bills for us in terms of policies that are being made kind of at the last second to us, although they may have been negotiated behind closed doors for a while. The budget hopefully will be released in the next couple of days. We should see that in the Senate. And, we may wrap up by the end of the week. Of course, our leadership is saying we'll stay all the way. We won't sign any die until we're required to, which is May 28th at 5 p.m. But there's always kind of a push to get out the door. I hope that doesn't mean we're rushing policy. But in prior years, it does mean that we're pushing some things through without a lot of vetting and a lot of time. So what we'll be seeing over the next week, we'll see budget. We'll see those budget bills. That includes something called budget limit bills, where they give real specific guidelines to agencies on how they can spend the money. I always try to look at those carefully because our agencies need flexibility to do their mission. And also compare that to the budget requests they made to start with. The other thing we'll be seeing is conference bills. So those are bills that are still being negotiated between the House and the Senate. And we'll see that language sometimes at the very last minute. So if there's a bill still alive in conference, do reach out to us and let us know if you have concerns about it. Anyway, that's what's going on at the Capitol. I'm glad to answer questions. I wish I could give you more specifics on the budget. I'm sure it'll be revealed soon enough. But I would love to hear from you if you have concerns about our priorities going forward. Hope you're having a good weekend, and thank you very much.